Welcome to Crescent City with your hosts Natalie Jean and Jackie Zabrowski.
This is not worth wearing today because
No.
you can't even tell. Can you see my rippling muscles?
No, I think I dare say you could probably take your rippling muscles off.
Oh no, that's a
so
that's a
this
process.
is for you. Yeah, this is for you and your character.
We'd have to take another 10 minutes for me to get this off.
Yeah, you are sucked into a bit of like an abs cage.
Yeah, like a prison of abs.
Yeah, but also, isn't that every person that has abs like that? Because I feel like you have to work really hard to get it, and it goes away really easily. So is it not always a cage of abs?
But then also, when you do have them, do people even really like you for you? Or is it just your abs?
I just feel like it really makes sense now that we're really talking about it, that if I had abs, I'd also probably show them off all the time because you put so much work into it. You'd have to be like, but did you see? Did you see what I have of an under
100%. Also, people are just genetically born more likely to have those, because those are top muscles. They're not even they don't mean you're strong necessarily.
No.
Because the internal muscles are the ones. Is this exciting?
You're a muscle mommy. Honestly, it is exciting because you are a muscle mommy, so you do know about these things.
I will never have a six-pack, and that's fine.
No, unless it's a Tab. I don't even know if they make that soda anymore.
Oh, Tab the soda?
Tab the soda.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're throwing it back there.
Yeah, well, Natalie, be not so long to speak. I long to die.
Oh my God, is it a bit of a Claire?
Me not so long to speak. I long to die.
You're very pretty in this costume.
I really appreciate that. And for those that are not watching the video, I am dressed as Sandriel, even though I shouldn't be sexy. This is God-given. It's not my fault as Sandriel that I'm trying to be this sexy, but she is an angel that we should, be turned on by.
But
in some respect, even though very, very evil. But I also do look like Claire Danes in Romeo plus Juliet.
I mean, that's I can't. Where am I in 1996? Where am I?
Yeah, I mean, you
Whoa.
are giving definitely like baby Leo in this, like with dark hair. Yeah, you're giving baby Leo.
Sure am.
Yeah, actually, you know what you're giving? You're giving Johnny Depp from Benny and June.
I mean, I'll take that. I definitely look like
a very scary Umbra Mortis. Everybody say it with me. She looks like a very scary Umbra Mortis.
I definitely still look like I just said his name, Ryan. What did I just say? I definitely
wow.
still more resemble a Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah, but like sexy.
But I keep trying to make it work.
It's like, I saw Tommy Wiseau driving one time, and he was driving in a, I think, bigger than average, huge white Jeep.
That
and he
checks
was
out.
dressed all in white.
Mhm.
And he was smoking a cigar, and he had his hand out the window. I was like, man, who is this dude? Because I saw all the jewelry on the arm that came out that was smoking the cigar.
Mhm.
And there's like, oh my God, that's Tommy Wiseau. And I just feel like it all made so much sense.
Him as a person?
And that,
Oh, like the
like
co-
that,
yeah,
like where I
absolutely.
found him in, I was like, yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, and now you're here with him. It's us, Claire Danes and Tommy Wiseau.
At least
here
I
to
wouldn't have to
prevent-
worry. I don't think Tommy Wiseau would hit on me. I don't
God
think
knows.
I'm his type.
What's his type? What's his type?
I think I'm going to assume, maybe this is slander, and you can say it is. I think I'm 15 years too old.
Really?
Right? I would just
know.
assume this is me making assumptions and I'm making an ass out of me and Tommy Wiseau.
Isn't one of his lore things that he's been with a much older woman his whole adult life who paid for his movies?
Whoa!
Am I just fabricating that? I swear to God, that's
I love
what
all
happened.
the lies we might be creating about Tommy Wiseau right now, but, I'm here for it because technically you didn't come here for that information, so we're not really spreading lies about what you came here to listen about.
Yeah, if you take that in and share it as truth, that's on you.
Yeah, so, wow, we really turned it back around, though.
Mhm.
And maybe it's because we both have wings on. I don't know, do the wings make you feel more, I feel like I have more authority because I've got wings on.
To be honest, your wings, I like
Are you
them.
about to shit on my wings?
No, I like them better than mine. Mine just stick straight up in the air.
Yeah, but then it's cool because you look like there's a halo, but not like the halo that Hunt has.
But I have that one too.
Oh God, be not so long to speak, I long to die. Because I can't kiss my 15-year-old boyfriend.
She was also a child.
She was so it was fine. Technically, she was like really a child. But we're not going to get into Romeo plus Juliet right now.
Why not?
No.
I'll always talk about it.
I know. And also, Natalie threw me an insane Romeo plus Juliet bachelorette party, and it was unbelievable.
What was it? We did a not enjoyed, not yet. Wait, what's the line? Because we reversed
Was
it
it
for you.
borrowed?
I know it.
Now we gotta look it up.
I gotta look it up. I'm sorry. I'm sold, not yet enjoyed. And then, but we flipped it for you and said enjoyed, not yet sold.
And that was my bachelorette party shirts. And man, everybody got the reference. Everybody, I was like, do you get Romeo? Do you see? I'm a theater bitch. I don't know if you know this or not. Yeah, I'm a bit of a theater girl. And you try to hide it by being like, I'm cool, I'm tough, I wear a leather jacket. But I'm just a theater girl, just waiting to dress up like an angel so I can pretend like I'm looking at my 15-year-old boyfriend through an aquarium tank.
That's not who you are. You're a mean, evil lady, but you're also her twin.
Yeah, I'm Sandriel today. But also I'm
technically
Shahar.
We are lovers.
Oh my God. Actually, no, you hate me. I'm not Shahar, I'm Sandriel.
But you look just like Shahar. He's so confused.
You should think about that.
His body's confused.
Yeah, don't you? You're all horny and you're all chubby down.
And I'm mad.
Yeah, and you're mad because I'm a bad angel. I'm a bad angel. Billie Eilish was singing about me.
Oh, the song.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if the duck
you
sounds
didn't get my
worked.
Yeah, well technically there were more guinea pig sounds, but yeah.
Oh, guinea pig sounds. Of course. My bad.
Well, I guess we'll talk about the book now.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Fine. All right, if that's what we came here for. Well, we're still building a lot here.
We're going to be learning so many characters, so we are going to take as much time as we need so that we're all on the same page. Okay, for the test later.
This is going to help all of us.
So now we've entered part 2 of the book, which is a very different world for Bryce.
Oh, it's different. Remember where we left her off.
Everyone died. All of the main characters we were just getting introduced to and getting used to, all
and
ripped
loving
to shreds.
And laughing alongside. Dead.
Save a couple. There's still a few who are with us. On this mortal coil.
Even they're not talking to us currently.
No, they're not. Bryce is living an extremely different life when we return, and it is 22 months later from the initial event of her friends being ripped to pieces. And
what would you have done in those 22 months? Drink and drugs and dance and drink and drugs and
that's
dance.
It's what looks like. At the top, it seems as though that's what Bryce has decided, but we may learn a bit different. Her best friend and her almost lover were two of the people who were taken apart limb by limb in her own bedroom. And so now she is trying to deal with that as best she can.
Let's hope she moves. I just feel like of all the trials, like, I gotta get out of this place.
Thankfully, it seems like she may have.
Yeah.
And at the very, very least, all we can say is at least the younger brother of Connor, her almost lover, Ethan, was not there because he was celebrating a win with his Sunball team that evening. I think last time I actually said he was at the party, but he wasn't. He was never at the party at all. He was celebrating with his own people.
He was just having a good time, boy time.
But away from the apartment where all the bad stuff happened. So even though he wasn't there, and she's glad he's alive, he has since cut Bryce off. It seems as though Sabine, Danica's mother, is not the only one who holds Bryce somewhat accountable for what occurred, which is totally unfair.
Yes, but like all of that hurt, and especially like towards the wolf pack as well, like it hurts in such a different, like in so many ways. I can't even imagine. Like, we know that Sabine's anger is not the same as Ethan's anger, though. I will say.
We don't know right now.
We don't, but I will. But at this point in time, I wasn't like, fuck off, Ethan. I was very much like, oh yeah, his brother and all of his friends just got ripped apart. So I probably also need a little time as well.
And it is a little bit of, I would call it slut shaming, because the reason that they are kind of pointing the finger at her is because she wasn't responding to anybody's text. She was partying, she was doing drugs and having sex in the bathroom.
Some people deal with grief in other ways,
but
okay?
no, that's not even grief. That was before grief. And, oh, you mean how they're responding? And I'm not, I get it. I feel like I would feel shame if I was in Bryce's shoes in that time, but ultimately that's
also, you're going to feel shame anyway because you weren't there. And even though she couldn't have stopped it or saved them, ultimately, aren't you going to feel that shame?
I think probably. But at the end of the day, that's her partying is not a crime. It's not like she was supposed to like pick Danica up and she didn't.
Right.
It's just, I get why people are going to be looking at her going, oh, she was like all coked up while this was happening. Cool. So, that's it's not called coke. Light seekered up.
Yeah.
Light seekered up.
Although if we could turn lightsabers into a drug, I feel like I'd probably enjoy Star Wars a little bit more.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if the world's ready for that to become a drug. I think it would cause a lot of problems.
Man, think of all the nerds doing drugs there'd be, as if there's not a lot of nerds out there doing drugs.
You just gotta brand them. You gotta brand them for Star Wars.
You're right.
So.
May the 4th be with your drugs.
Perfect. Yep.
See, you're welcome, drug dealers. It writes itself.
Okay, so we see that Ethan and Sabine are cutting her off and blaming her for this. But even Fury and Juniper won't return her calls most of the time, regardless of the fact that they were also out partying with her that night. Neither of them also were responding to their messages, which I'm sure they were receiving.
Yeah.
But they've all kind of broken apart. But I get tragedy does funny things to people. So it's not necessarily Fury and Juniper blaming Bryce, but their friendship was fractured during this horrible
Yeah, of
event.
course. Which I imagine there's a portion of Bryce who also is pulling away from everybody too and not responding. And, unfortunately, no matter what you're going through, if people keep hitting you up, and you never respond, so they're going to stop inviting you out places.
Absolutely. Although I will say Bryce mentions in this series of chapters that she keeps trying to call and they never answer. So it's Fury's the one who's not answering, It seems like. And Juniper sometimes does, but we'll get into that. So we meet Bryce in this first part 2 section, and she is at her old haunt, the White Raven. We learn through her thoughts that she's only here because she has a job to do that night and otherwise avoids it because, I don't know, all of the trauma, I guess, probably.
Yeah, I'd be terrified of something happening the moment I walked in there.
And also, I bet exactly. You'd walk in and all you would be thinking about was that night and everything that happened.
Yeah.
So normally you're not going to be hanging out at the club where you were when all your friends were ripped apart. But she takes advantage of this club lifestyle and this moment of being here enough to roar one out with a lion shifter in the bathroom.
Hell yeah, Natalie. Sometimes you gotta roar one out. But then that's the thing. If you're with a lion shifter, do you want them to remain a lion?
No, I feel like the genitals won't line up.
What if it's like fun new ones?
I don't
have no
know.
idea. It really depends on what happens post shift.
I just feel as though so many different animals' genitals are like sharp and barbs are in them. There's like curly Q
corkscrews
ones
and stuff. Yeah, well, I'm not out here banging ducks.
So many animals' penises are shaped so that the female can't escape.
Yeah.
Which is really great.
Isn't it beautiful? You really got to get in there and hold on.
Yeah. So that's what Bryce is doing in the bathroom. Naughty. We also learn in this chapter she's not drinking.
Mm-hmm.
We take a moment to acknowledge the humor in the shifter thinking she's a sex worker simply because she doesn't want to hang out afterwards.
Which, man, a lot of people must have thought about me, because I used to go, peace, bye, don't want to know ya.
I mean, if they're going to offer to pay, like, okay. Then,
Sure.
But I guess suddenly you are a sex worker.
Which is fine.
Which is fine.
Great.
Just be prepared for that.
Honestly, banging while standing up in a bathroom is a lot of work.
It is.
I'd rather get paid for it.
If only there was other choices where you didn't have to have sex in the bathroom. It's just like, you have to do it.
Bed. I've heard of bed.
So
I love that you have full abs on. I can see how uncomfortable you are sitting here with the full abs on.
I'm wearing them again when I have an open shirt, and you're going to see them.
I understand. Open shirt, I get you. But right now, you're just like... And I think it's good for you to be uncomfortable. We should always, is that not where growth comes?
Self-imposed discomfort that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably. I feel like I'm growing right now. Yeah, so the lion shifter says he's confused when she just wants to leave, and he tries to say, I can't pay you, and she thinks it's hilarious, which I love. But beyond this little romp, she needed it to be here because Jessica needs her to meet with a particular vampire in the VIP section of the club.
Vampire in person.
Vampire in person?
VIP. It wasn't funny.
I didn't understand.
Sorry.
I know. I do like it. I do like it. I just didn't get it. But he's a fancy.
It just makes sense that he would be in the vampire in person section of the club.
Yes. So, he's a fancy vampy. His name's Maximus Tertian. And he has some dealings with Jessica.
You know he's fancy because he goes by Maximus and not Max.
Yeah, he refuses to be called Max. And he's in the vampires in person section, which is hard to get into.
Yeah, this is big for him.
So Bryce's boss, of course, is Jessica at the antique store in which she works just as a refresher. In Midgard,
vampires are veneer deriving from hell, descendants of lesser demons. They rely on human blood for sustenance.
Immediately, Maximus is clocked for being a creep. And I mean, he is a vampire, so I think generally they are creeps because they're trying to trick you at all times.
Whoa, I think it depends on what world of vampires you're living in, Natalie. I feel like you're being very vampist right now. Depends.
I mean, look, we can all say we love Twilight, but they are creepists.
I think it's also because I just finished the second season of Interview with a Vampire, so I'm also thinking about those because not all vampires. I'm just saying.
Okay, see, I haven't started the show, but in the movie Interview with a Vampire, they're all pretty much creeps. I mean,
Yeah.
So he is acting like a general creepy vamp person towards Bryce. Even though she's there to do a deal with him for her boss, he makes it clear that he's either or trying to fuck and eat her.
Oh,
maybe
no,
both.
Don't do that.
I know how much you like it.
Oh, no, I don't know.
I
know it would be very scary if I was in the vampire in person section, and I know
you
that
would be scared.
I would be very scared, but also, oh God.
I mean, speaking of Interview with the Vampire, that scene scared the crap out of me as a kid. Whenever they look like they're with the two women, and it looks like they're going to be like making love with them, and they start necking the women, and they're like all into it, and then they look down and they see that their blood is pouring all over them, and they start freaking out. That shit scared the crap out of me as a kid.
Yeah, it scared me too.
You didn't find it scary when they put her in a coffin?
No, I'm sure I was
that.
very scared. I'm very sure I was very scared. That was before I was thinking about having sex in coffins, all right?
With the lid on?
Sure.
Oh, are you kidding?
It would be rare. Talk about difficult. I would want to get paid after that. If I'm fucking in a coffin, I want to make money on it.
I'm truly stunned that you wouldn't feel claustrophobia in that situation.
I mean, I say this, but I've never actually. It's not like I don't want to be in complete darkness and well, no, I take it back. No, I'm here for it.
Wow.
Yeah, and be like, I don't know, what vampire is this? Oh, what year is this? How'd you get in my coffin?
I just think that I've seen Kill Bill too many times, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I don't want to be. There's something horny about getting, like, buried alive.
Okay, well, now we know your threshold.
Thank you. See, boundaries. It's important to talk these things out.
So true. So Maximus has a classic, what we would consider a classic vampire look. He's got the slick back hair and the black jacket and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And Bryce knows that his reputation is seedy and dangerous, even in the world of vamps. AKA, he's known to be vicious and manipulative. Did I date him in my 20s?
This is what I'm talking about, Natalie. We say we don't want it. We say that we would never. And then you think about, like, really think about it. It's like, man, I wish one of them had been a vampire. At least I could be like, well, at least they were a vampire.
Oh, at least, yeah, there was some
You know what I mean?
There's some kind of, like, special experience I could take away from this.
Magic, like, yeah, there's like, wow, I really learned something and I grew from it rather than what actually happened.
They made my self-esteem disappear.
Yeah, hey, what was that magic? Come on.
So does
years of treating ourselves poorly is what happened.
And so goes the song and dance known to many women of all worlds when you have to pretend like someone isn't being completely inappropriate in order to keep your job.
Jesus.
Which is garbage, by the way, but a reality. Maximus and Jessica are working on a deal regarding a bust of some famous vamp, and Bryce is there to close the deal and get the money. Both she and Jessica know that she's
talking about tatas, huh? Yeah, I say, how big? I say, one hand or two hands. How big's the bust?
I had to go back through the thing
I'm sorry,
I just said.
It's
bust,
the word bust.
bust.
It was the word bust that I got lost in.
That she's meant to be eye candy. So her and Jessica know that she is supposed to be sort of alluring, but that never means the recipient of the eye candy is owed anything.
No.
So we're all clear.
Yes. Thank you, Natalie.
As Max mulls over the paperwork Bryce has brought him, Bryce looks out over the dance floor, which is where they're sitting in the VIP balcony. It's overlooking the dance floor. And she reminisces internally about a simpler time when she was like the young girls on the dance floor.
Oh.
Some of them are clearly celebrating their drops because there is a tradition to wear a bit of their first light as jewelry, which Bryce describes as looking like glow necklaces or, like glow sticks. It sounds sort of like a bachelor party or something.
It sounds like a fun party that I want to go to.
Yeah, so does Bryce, but she's not gonna be able to.
No, because she was gonna do it with Danica.
They had a whole plan for their drop party. There's a slow rollout of explanation of first light in this first section of the book, and Bryce thinks it over as she watches the dance floor. We learn about first light in many different chapters, and it talks, you kind of get little drips and drops of what happens during the drop through all of it.
It is confusing.
Yeah.
Like, a part of the reason why, again, we're going through these books is because I remember at first being like, what is it? Where does it come from? And then it was just these little drips. And I'm like, but what is it? And we'll learn more as time goes on.
It's
you're supposed to kind of be confused at this point.
Yeah, you're just sort of going, okay.
Okay, drop, first light, okay.
So what we're kind of learning in this section is first light is something that they generate from this ritual of the drop. So when they're doing this really challenging thing, they generate this sort of power from inside of their bodies. Only the veneer, not humans. And Bryce describes the drop as a terrifying experience. So that's why the celebration happens afterwards, because you've done it and you've made this big milestone in your life and the scary part's over and you've survived. This, however, produces this first light, when you come up from it, produces their version of electricity for their cities.
And it was only during the drop that the flash of first light appeared. Raw, unfiltered magic. It could heal and destroy and do everything in between. Captured and bottled, the first glow was always used for healing. Then the rest of it was handed over to the energy plants to fuel their lights and cars and machines and tech. Some of it was used for spells, and some was reserved for whatever shady shit the Republic wanted. The, quote, donation of the first light by each citizen was a key element of the drop ritual, part of why it was always done in a government center, a sterile room, where the light from the person making the drop was gobbled up during the transition into immortality and true power.
So it's like sort of like generating electricity mixed with having your period.
Yay. But at least afterwards, like if I'm going to go through all that, at least then you get to be immortal.
Yes, exactly.
We get nothing.
Having your period just means
I
you
guess
gotta...
you can like have a baby, but like what if you're not?
But yeah, the vast majority of having your period is pain, fear, emotional distress.
Shame. Don't forget shame.
Constantly being worried.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great. No magic powers except for you getting to be an extra big bitch.
Hell yeah.
So she's basically describing a corrupted government that she doesn't trust, that sort of takes some of their
Power.
juju, their body fluids to use for whatever they need, quote unquote. It's like taking a
It's
tithing.
just like our tax dollars.
Well, our tax dollars technically could produce things like streets and roads and bridges and shit. It's like, I feel like I mean, don't talk badly about our government, Jackie.
I mean, I enjoy and I like.
But it's kind of, to me, it almost feels like a tithing. Like,
yes,
you're
having all this power and you got to give a
donating
little bit of it. Yes.
Yeah. Even though it's just something that comes out naturally, but they have to do it in like a hospital almost. So it's like this medical procedure. And so like the drop, again, she's describing parts of it where you are essentially jumping into some like psychical
tunnel.
Like it's like you're jumping off a cliff, but it's inside of your magic spirit.
Mind?
Yeah.
Spirit?
Because your body stays.
Right.
So your spirit...
It's like a really great trip where you also get immortality afterwards.
But you can technically die if you don't get back in time.
Yeah.
So there's 6 minutes that they start counting down before you really start... Essentially the way you might say, oh, if you lose oxygen to the brain for so many minutes, then you're probably never going to come back. That kind of happens too with the drop if you don't make it back in the allotted time. So this is... the bottom, when you're going all the way to the very bottom of your power as Veneer in this world, that's where your bottom of your power is. So that's why people have different levels of power, because some people go much deeper than others in this sort of cerebral.
Yeah, cerebral. Just take it. Cerebral. All right. You drop and then you're immortal and you got to get back.
Yeah, and you got to get back up. So once you reach the bottom, you got to zip yourself back up, and you have an anchor who's out there with your body that needs to kind of help you return. Like it's like a light saying, "Come back, come back." And so,
like you, Natalie, for me.
Oh.
Every day when I wake up, I say, Natalie, you've got to be in my bedroom. Because if I'm dreaming, you have to be able to be there to be like, you're here. And it's like, I could ask my husband to do it, but why? When I want it to be Natalie, I need the sister-in-law bond.
It's causing a lot of problems.
It's difficult for both of our husbands, but they're getting used to it.
Yeah. They better.
I mean, look at us. They obviously, they need to get used to it because, look at angels of different kinds.
Angels over here. Henry loves this look on me, I'll tell you.
Honestly, he did see you right before we started, and it seemed that he was into it. But I think that he's into you, and isn't that beautiful?
I'm going to say he wasn't super into this look, but that's very sweet of you, Jackie.
I think that, like, Henry has a soft hard on for Tommy Wiseau. It's softy hard. It's in between.
I don't want to believe that. So,
especially him with that big white Jeep with a big old cigar.
Oh God! Can you imagine?
I just imagine him go like
him over, just over top of you. So the anchor helps them come back to the surface, and they re-enter their body, and it's known as the ascent. And then basically the aging process is slowed down by like 500% or something. And those creatures, the Veneer, become immortal in the terms that they use the term immortal in this world, which is not fully immortal, but like hundreds and hundreds of years they get to live. And they get to be like super hot the whole time, which is kind of the best part about them.
It's the best part of writing that into your own world of like, yeah, you live forever, but also you're really, really hot.
Yeah, like the whole time. Unless you're some kind of bitch who tries to get into a cauldron.
Uh-oh. We're not talking about Akatar right now, Natalie.
Bryce laments over watching the drop party and then thinking about her own drop party that she and Danica had been planning for a long time.
This used to be my playground.
They had both decided they were going to try to wait till they were 27. They figured in their minds it was like the perfect age.
This used to be my childhood dreams.
Oh, I was going to try to harmonize, but then you went up.
Yeah, I'm there with you, supporting whether you want me to or not.
So,
also, that was a League of Their Own reference for anyone that
you
didn't
better know
understand our interesting deep cut of a Madonna song that nobody thinks about anymore.
I think about it all the time.
I think about that moment and I sing to myself, "This used to be my playground," whenever I'm thinking about something I missed from my childhood.
You should. It's a great song. And yeah, that's me saying that. A non-Madonna person. I love that song. So she and Danica, of course, are never going to have that drop party. And in fact, Bryce still has not done her own drop, making her very vulnerable. In the present moment, Maximus has decided he's satisfied with the deal after looking over the papers, and Bryce scores the bag, which is to say a big check. However, as she takes the check and is about to bounce, saying, "Thank you," he stops her, propositioning her. She declines, and then he becomes more forceful, suggesting that she must have been provided to him for extra entertainment.
Well, it had to be a record, being mistaken for a whore twice within 10 minutes.
And she goes on to think about how she has no disdain for that practice. She's just simply not doing that. So she tries to brush him off without pissing him off because, again, she's working. And he gets increasingly more aggressive and demanding, gripping her side. She just begins to panic when she senses a powerful force enter the VIP lounge, and the vampire retreats when he feels it. She's relieved for a minute, thinking that there's a distraction so she can zip out, but then she realizes it's her, quote, cousin, crowned prince of the Balburn Fae, Rune Danan.
Oh my God, ruin the things I'd let you run about my life.
Yeah, he's definitely up there for me, especially because he's alleged to resemble another character in the book.
I'm just sad because I wanted to dress as Rune for an episode coming up, and I just grew out my side shave. And it took me a year, and it's still growing out. I had the perfect hair to be Rune Danan, and I'm sad about it now.
It's really hard to get a wig that looks right with a shaved side.
Yes. It's also really hard to get a haircut when you have a shaved side of your head as well. And just letting everybody know.
Just so everyone out there knows.
I grew it back out, and it's taking so long. Anyway, we're not talking about my side shave, but Rune Danan, Crown Prince of the Balbaran Fae, has a side shave, and he is hotty with the body.
Yeah, he has long black hair on one side that he flips over, and the other side shaved.
He's covered in tattoos.
He got a little bit piercing. So, no, he's not actually her cousin. In fact, he is her half-brother. Though we learn that he's her brother in the first couple chapters through dialogue, we are still kind of gaining information about their actual relationship. And we learn he's a prince during the interrogation room scene whenever Bryce is in shock and they're trying to understand what happened that night. So he busts in, and then we kind of learn at that point that he's a prince. So when we meet him briefly in the police station, we don't really get a sense of Bryce and Rune's relationship because Bryce was in full shock.
Yeah, she was barely a person at that moment in time.
But we do know she's irritated by him by the way she had talked about him at the beginning. No longer thrilled at her escape plan for Maximus now that she has to deal with her cousin brother, she tries to brush Rune off, who is dressed in a tight black t-shirt, dark jeans, with tattooed sleeves and lines of rings in one pointed ear. Is that a boner?
Yeah, that was me. I should tie little bells to it so I can go ding ling ding ling ling so
everybody knows.
Yeah.
But Rune is there to speak to her and protect her to her discontent. The owner of the Raven.
She doesn't need to be protected, but also does she need to be protected?
I get the defensiveness about all the protection, but like, do you know what it's like when no men or anybody tries to protect you ever? Like, don't look a gift horse in the face.
I think it depends on how they are protecting you and why they are protecting you.
She was about to get grabbed up by a vampire.
Yes, in this situation, I'd be like, thank you, Rune. And I feel that, like, especially, like, I feel like it's a young game, too, of like, no one can tell me what to do. When people are like, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just trying to help you a little bit. So I'm a less, like, defiant in that way and more in a, help me take care of me.
You know, it's really interesting. Probably that has something to do with our places in our families, because as the oldest daughter, there wasn't anybody ever like trying to help.
That makes sense. And I'm so used to Henry. I'm so used to having an older brother.
I mean, that's just you being the youngest sibling. It's like not a special, like it's a normal dynamic.
Right,
like,
right.
You've always had older siblings around you, and as the baby, it's like not there's both. Like pluses and minuses to both sides of it.
Oh, yeah.
But that's why I kind of feel like I don't even know that feeling of being like, don't protect me, you know, because I never got it.
Oh, my God. Let's talk about it, Natalie. But this is, you know, it's also something that, like, Bryce did have, because you know that she has good parents that she's still close to. But then, like, think of the trust and everything that would be broken after what has happened to her. Like, how do you let anyone protect you after what just happened? Because who do you trust?
Yeah, no, it's so that I can relate to, where you just don't trust anybody, and you don't want to trust yourself. You closed off.
Yeah.
So
you're broken, not bent.
And we can learn to love again.
Thank you, Pink.
Pink, thank you.
Man, she's so tight with all that aerial work. We don't need to talk about Pink right now, but
Pink.
Man, she's so strong.
So the reason that Rune knows that she's in danger is because the owner of the Raven, who is a butterfly shifter, is friends with Rune and called him in to say, looks like some trouble's happening with your cousin or whatever.
I don't know why I feel like immediately a butterfly shifter would be so much fun to do drugs with. I feel like all of a sudden, and then it's like you turn into a big butterfly, and you're like, whoa!
I mean, I think they're insinuating that in that he owns that party spot.
Yeah,
you know?
Right?
I just feel like that's such a risky shift creature to have.
Yeah, that you're going to get destroyed.
I keep saying that when we're talking about this. I would be too afraid to be something like that, because everything can kill you.
But I don't know, do they have a choice?
No, not in this world, I don't think. Anyway, Rune is there to tell her that her bio dad, the Autumn King, wants her to essentially behave for the next couple of months while the city's leaders are preparing for and then experiencing the summit meeting in Lunathian. So this is a new thing that we're learning about, which basically is being described as a meeting, like a gathering, sort of like a UN meeting that occurs every 10 years of Valbara's ruling power to debate issues or policies. So the Autumn King is essentially just saying, I don't want you to embarrass me, so fucking stay out of trouble, which is great. Thank you so much for that. For the
Thanks,
concern.
Autumn King. Yeah, because we know that you only are concerned with yourself, so.
Yes. But it's clear immediately that Rune is not also feeling that way. He's telling her to be careful because he's actually showing consideration and care for her.
Yes.
Whereas her father is just saying, don't make me embarrassed.
Do what I say.
Yeah. And during this little back and forth between the two of them, he happens to bring up Danica in that sequence of back and forth conversation, which she does not enjoy. And she reacts by crushing her glass with uncontrollable fury because she wants to keep her name out of his mouth.
Hell yeah.
Okay? She clearly holds a lot of animosity towards her brother, though we don't fully know why at this point, other than you could say, oh, maybe just because her dad is a point of trauma for her and she doesn't want to be around them. But it seems like Rune's like a decent fae, you know?
Or at least coming about it in a way that it's like, no, he's obviously just trying to look out for you.
Yeah.
This is
And
definitely one of those perspective things of like, God, if I was in Bryce Quinlan's head, like I completely understand where she's coming from, but it's like, he's obviously not, dude, you're not. But, trauma
yeah,
ain't just a rifle and angel.
right? So
That works, right?
yeah. He seems like he cares. At the very least, he's shown up twice to try to save her from stuff.
Yeah.
And in fact, she tells him in that moment, okay, she kind of like doesn't completely brush him off. She says, I'll be a good girl, and attempts to leave. And he asks her to let him walk her home since she's been, quote, partying. And this is when we learn that Bryce has actually been sober since that fateful night 2 years ago.
Kava.
That's a hard.
That's kava.
But I get it. There's been points where I've stopped drinking or cut back on drinking in my life because I knew that I was so sad or like something was so hard in that point that I would lose my mind. Like I would spiral.
Yeah.
And I just went, I can't. Not that I haven't excessively drank in my life.
That's the problem. It takes time and years, I think, of experience to understand, like, hey, this isn't going to help. That's not going to do anything. That's not going to change anything. It's not going to change what happened. It's only going to make me feel worse. And it takes, I think, some wisdom sometimes to get to that point.
It's true. It's also hard when you kind of want to make yourself feel worse.
Feel bad. Yeah.
But
I don't know anything about that. Catholic.
So Bryce has not been drinking this night nor the last 2 years, but she doesn't tell Rune this. She seems to want to keep her reputation as a dumb party girl.
It's easier to hide in.
Even though they are sniping at each other as she leaves, she knows Rune is trailing her on her walk home, which is very sweet. He's just like trying to quietly make sure she's okay.
Oh my God, the years of Henry doing this in my life, just being like, I know you're making bad decisions, but I'm here, I'm on the outside, I'm over here. And I just be like, get away from me. I'm making my own bad decisions. And he always would help me pick up the pieces. So that's why I think I see there's a lot of like, I mean, I don't look at Henry and think Rune Dannon because I can't. Viscerally, but at least like in the beauty of their relationship.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, it is your guys' like dynamic of the older brother and the younger sister, which
of like
I
telling
also
me I know
have never experienced. So.
It is, it's wonderful. It is amazing in so many ways, and there are just certain points in your life where you do the like, ugh, and then you look back on it, you're like, oh, you were being it, huh?
Fun.
I will be your old brother, Natalie.
Oh, it's too late.
Oh.
All the mistakes have been made.
Isn't that kind of nice? No, don't worry, Natalie. There's plenty of mistakes to be made.
Oh, yeah. They'll be coming.
Oh, yeah.
So he is trailing her back to her home, but we learn here it's not the home she had at the beginning of the book.
Again.
It's not that shared apartment. Because could you imagine your almost boyfriend and your best friend's body parts were strewn across your bedroom? Do you think you would stay in that?
Like
I would rather be homeless.
Bed. Oh, yeah.
So no, she's not there. She's actually had quite the upgrade since then. We see her flip off Rune as she enters the luxury building that we find out is her front entranceway. And he stands across the street until she gets inside. She thinks about how she ended up here in this building because of Danica's will. She's obviously not happy about it, but she definitely wanted to accept the extra security. And, she's pretty terrified now of whatever happened and has a lot of PTSD. So I imagine just having all of the locks and stuff on the apartment door. And plus, like, she might be like, I didn't earn this, but like, you still get like a really nice apartment.
Yeah,
so.
and also it's something from Danica. It's like I feel like that would be the kind of like, she wanted me to have this. She left this for me.
Right.
So I'm going to take it.
It would be kind of weird and kind of like, I don't know. I think it would be psychologically damaging if your friend did this and then you denied taking the gifts she was like offering you.
It's going to fuck you up in a completely different way.
Yeah, it's not what she would want. So And in this, we also learn that Syrinx has moved in with her and is now basically her pet because Syrinx was, of course, before in antiquities acquisition.
Ah.
It was Syrinx is a very rare breed of creature, and it was an acquisition that the Griffin Antiquities had achieved. And Bryce kind of just always looked at him as a pet. And we learn a lot more about that creature, but it is a chimera, which is a thing that exists in the lore of Earth people. I think I did mention it, but it is a fire-breathing female monster with a lion's head, a goat's body, and a serpent's tail, which is not exactly what Syrinx is like. But Syrinx is seemingly a concoction of animals mixed together. Just different ones than our lore.
Hell yeah. Put them in a blender, watch them spin around till they're a beautiful animal. No, it's good. It's the blender of life.
Ew.
You put all the parts in and see what it squeezes out of its hole.
So we're all just a bunch of slop. You're right. We are.
Honestly, aren't we? Isn't there like something in us that like makes your brain tell your body that we don't feel all of the organs moving around and out, like sloshing around in our body
right,
all the
because
time?
isn't there a disorder? This is not.
This has nothing to do with any of this.
I'm sure I just saw this on TikTok or something, so please don't take anything I'm saying seriously. But isn't there a disorder where you do feel them moving around?
It's gotta be. If there's something that makes it stop, just slosh, sloshy, sloshy, slosh. Kind of fun though. Probably not.
So many squiggles in there.
Yeah, man. A lot of gushing.
So,
God, imagine if you could hear the gush of your blood in your veins. Think about what a vampire has to go through. They have to think about that all the time.
Nobody ever thinks about it.
Think about the vampires.
What they have to feel. If I was a vampire, I would put blood in gushers and eat them like that.
Oh my God. Yeah, but then wouldn't have to be like some sort of like gummy piece of thigh bone or like thigh
you
meat.
use some kind of like viscera or something as the outside.
Or I guess isn't that just kind of what gelatin is anyway, right? Isn't it?
That's true. Unfortunately, yeah, you're right. It is already.
So there you go. Yeah, it just hooves.
So it's gelatin made out of human bones. With blood in the center.
Don't say we never teach you anything here.
I should pitch that to vampires.
Yeah, you should. Get Maximus back in here.
He can't. He did.
Ugh, good.
So now we get this little glimpse into what her private life is like, which is, by what we can gauge, very isolated and lonely.
Yeah.
But she's like chosen that in a lot of ways. Although she is still trying to talk to some of her friends, she doesn't really want to make new ones.
No.
So in chapter 9, we head back to be with Hunt, and we get a good idea of what his job is in this chapter.
Oh, he's scary.
It is intense. He is getting info out of people at any cost, generally. And it's kind of not the correct term to say job, because he is in servitude. And he doesn't really have any choice except maybe, the hardest choice that you would make, which is to kill yourself.
Is the waiting? Oh, I thought the waiting was the hardest part.
It is.
But also having to, work your way by killing people every day to get yourself out of servitude, I imagine, is just as difficult as the waiting.
Maybe just, I don't know. It's hard to say which one. But it doesn't really make it any easier to read that this character we're obviously following internally, so is of importance, is gutting a man alive in this chapter. But he does have some things in common with Azrael, I will say. That's what we kind of gauge at the beginning. But he in this world, Hunt isn't doing it for some cause. He's doing it because he really doesn't have a choice. So after a brief look into Hunt's night's work, which includes the killing of multiple men, we then follow him back up to the barracks at the Comitium, which is a building that seems to be set up like a military hall or a dorm hall, where the indentured angels all live and work together.
Not Sandriel, though.
Well, Sandriel is an archangel.
Mm-hmm.
You don't
think about
have
it.
to.
Be scared.
You're in some kind of palace.
Yeah.
So
it's big.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Because it has big enough to be a bunch of torture dungeons in it, you know?
And just think of how big their beds have to be just with their wings.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta have a huge bed. They must have to get like, an angel-sized bed, which is annoying.
Yeah. An angel bed. Yeah. So that's like 2 or 3 kings put together.
Damn. All right. I can fuck an angel. I do it for the bed.
Yeah, you do it for the mattress.
That's when you know you're 37, you know? I do it. How good is the mattress? Then that's what I'm really going there for. I mean, in my 20s, I fucked for AC when I lived in New York, and now I need mattresses, or if, like, you happen to, like, know a good dermatologist, but I have to have sex with you before you tell me the good dermatologist. Like, these are the things that you're willing to do.
Well, that's why your husband has to consistently learn different things to please you so that you don't go outside of the marriage.
Yeah, I think that all couples should live in fear.
That's it.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Yep, that's it.
So
I'm sorry, I'm Sandriel, all right? So I feel differently
you're
than
like-
human Jackie does.
you're getting into character.
I'm getting into character.
The comitium is buildings owned by the government, and as an extension, Micah, the governor angel.
Yeah, it's almost like because then it feels more like barracks. Like it
Yeah.
does feel like military. Oh, it's not fun.
No, this isn't nice. It's where it's like it seems sterile to me. That's what I imagine, that it's like sort of almost like a hospital in certain ways, where it's fancy. It's not like it's dingy, but they don't have like any pleasures there. It's just to store them.
Even as you're saying it, I feel like I can see it as the honors dorm that I stayed in Florida State, where like all the other dorms were really, really shitty, but I was in the honors dorm, and so the smarter people get the better things, but it's still a dorm. So it was the nicest dorm, but it was still a dorm.
Is that a thing that other colleges do, that if you get higher grades, you don't have to have a shitty room?
Thanks, Florida State. I
That
felt safe
seems-
in my dorm.
That seems really unethical.
Yeah. But when in Florida.
We had a sober dorm. Like one dorm building was sobriety dorm.
Was it actually sober?
Yeah, it was.
Wow,
people
hell
who were,
yeah,
like,
that's great.
People who wanted to be sober. So you had to apply to be in that one because the rest of them were not sober.
Yeah, they didn't want to get in that one.
I remember when one of my friends got expelled for shooting heroin in his apartment. So,
Hell yeah.
yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I think it's okay to get kicked out of your dorm for doing that. I think it's fine.
So, not a sober dorm.
No.
So, yeah, they kind of live in this way, although we do learn that they have like commons rooms and stuff where they can hang out, probably just so they don't go completely insane.
Yeah.
And they also kind of paint Micah as maybe he's not as bad. He's like maybe not that bad of an archangel. So maybe he's like giving them little allowances like this. And we get sort of almost a visual tracking shot of Hunt as he is walking through these halls. He goes into the commons room. He passes by other people's apartment doors, and he hears the noises of the other rooms. And we get a sense that he is also very isolated and alone, but he hears other people, other angels engaging in phone calls, sex, and gaming. So all of these other angels have these other exterior lives that he doesn't seem to have.
No.
And it immediately, again, gives us another person all alone.
Who is just
What's going to happen
on
with
the
two lonely
outside
people?
looking in?
Where the others seem to have some form of communal connection. He walks this lonely street on the boulevard of broken dreams.
Oh no, not the later Green Day reference.
He also pushes people away, because we see as he enters his own private commons with his other colleagues, he tries to hide before any of them can start speaking to him. And we've met a couple of them already, but the colleagues who are sitting in the commons room in the scene are Victoria, Naomi, and Justinian, who are just hanging out. They try to make small talk with him, and Justinian calls him a sick fuck because they all can see and smell what he did that night. Again, he didn't have any choice,
and they know that.
But they're kind of saying it in a camaraderie way, sort of like, you sick fuck.
Yeah. Well, because they're all lap dogs. Sorry, even as you
Right.
brought this up, I was like, man, I never looked up a picture of Isaiah. And
Really?
yeah, I don't know why it took me so long to look up a
Yeah,
picture of
handsome.
Isaiah.
He's handsome.
I mean, I know they're all going to be hot. It just depends on what flavor of hot
Right.
they're going to be, you know?
Yeah. So, Hunt, because he's covered in blood, they're basically alluding to that he didn't get these kills cleanly, but Hunt mumbles that he was forced to do it dirty at the request of Micah. So Micah has sent him out to get information, but really just to punish these men for whatever they did. And
yeah, it's more like a hit list than an information list.
Right. And Micah wants it done painfully and slow, which is great.
It's just like it takes so much time, you know? It's like Hunt has a whole list. He's got a lot of people he's got to kill. You want each one to be slow?
Thousands, actually.
Oh.
But Micah wants them to suffer. Naomi mentions that Hunt and Isaiah are supposed to investigate a murder in Old Square tomorrow, the section of town where Griffin Antiquities and Bryce's old apartment are. Hunt thinks about his dislike of this city, how Isaiah has blended in much better than he has and enjoys a revolving door of beautiful men through his dorm.
I could watch a tape or two.
I
just want to make sure everybody's having a good time.
Hunt is obviously not experiencing those same social engagements.
No.
But he does think about how he's thankful that Lunathian isn't Ravilis, which is where he was for a long time. And here we get a barrage of thoughts that break down some of Hunt's backstory. How he ended up in Micah's Triari, which again, Triari is the tip-top soldiers who protect the government in this world.
And so he's like the elite of the angels that even live in the angel dorm room.
Yeah. So I actually looked this up. The term Triari comes from the Roman Republic, which is the time before the Roman Empire.
Oh.
And it's a term about the most wealthy soldiers. So they were considered like the top, because if you were rich as a soldier, it was, I guess, a big deal
then you
back
were wealthy.
then. Look how scary these I put a picture of the Triari uniforms in the script here.
They got a head on their helmet. They've got like a face on their helmet.
Yes. In modern era, it looks kind of silly, but I'm sure this was a terrifying thing to see.
Eyes are up here, and they go, eyes are down here.
Yes, because the helmet has eyeballs on the top of it. And so Jackie was making a jape about how
Nipple jape.
Sounds like she's talking about breasts, but she's talking about two sets of eyes.
My eyes on the helmet.
That's for all of you out
Thank
there.
you.
So Hunt ended up here in Lunathian because he was actually helping to head the rebellion against the angels back hundreds of years ago. We mentioned the rebellion a little bit so far in the books, but he and this archangel named Shahar,
not
Shahar, but looking like Shahar, they were sort of running they were heading this rebellion, trying to fight against the tyranny
power
and the archangels, and essentially the Asteri on top of them. So in this liberation front, Hunt was the general of the army and the general of Shahar's loins.
Oh, no. I feel like it's probably, I've never led a rebellion before. Surprise. But I feel like it's probably no good if you and your honey are leading the rebellion. I feel like it's never... you hope it's going to end really well.
But that's how, couples are supposed to bond.
Yeah.
Over shared interests.
I guess what else are you supposed to do when you're dating in your 30s? Lead a rebellion.
Mm-hmm. Or in your hundreds.
Hundreds, yeah. I feel like they're in the 30s of angels.
Hundreds, of angels, right. Yeah. Also, there's not a lot of free time, I think, when you're running a liberation front. So you got to just find the time when you can for love.
Yeah, just get inside a tent somewhere. Let it go.
Essentially, Shahar has a twin sister named Sandriel. And
that's my name.
And that's who Jackie is today. And Sandriel was not about that rebel life.
No, I'm a good angel, which means I'm a bad angel.
Right. It just depends on who's telling the history. Who runs the history books?
Girls. Who runs history books, girls? They don't, actually. They don't whatsoever.
They don't. But depending on if Shahar or Sandriel was telling the story, they would have very different views of who the good one was.
You're right.
So, but having a twin who you're like mortal enemies with is pretty rough.
Man, that's got to be bad to the bone. You got to be so angry.
But Hunt and Shahar fell in love and they decided they wanted to try to free the angels. Sandriel was like, no way, I love being captured and I love power.
I love power.
So Hunt and Shahar had a group of rebels called the 18th Legion, and they tried and unfortunately failed to overthrow the angels hundreds of years before this book takes place. And Sandriel, the bad one,
I'm bad,
murdered her twin Shahar, Hunt's love, and took Hunt as captive for really no reason other than to torture and abuse him for amusement, basically to punish her twin sister, who she already killed.
You want to say to me, Hunt?
You look like the girl I kissed before.
It's got to be hard.
I don't understand what to do.
It's got to be really difficult.
With my feelings.
Except I don't understand your feelings, and I will never try to understand them because I'm a bad angel.
You won't. Yeah, you'll never learn. So this is obviously an extremely traumatic, horrific fate for Hunt to have for a long, long time.
You're saying Bryce and Hunt have both kind of gone through something.
Wow, I've never thought about it before.
Yeah, never
really
thought
put
about
that
that
together.
Yeah.
So for a long time, he was under the thumb of Sandriel, who was just kind of tormenting him. But after many, many years, she got bored torturing him and began throwing him into fighting pits. And then when she saw how well he could fight, she eventually trained him up into her own army, most likely because he has that very unique lightning power.
So,
lightning power.
Maybe you could say thank you, Sandriel, for teaching
For training?
for teaching me to be the best Umbra Mortis you could be.
You're right. I'm going to rise up and I'm going to be the bigger person. Thank you.
Well, we've got a lot more books to read.
Yep. So over the centuries, Sandriel decided she'd rather have some money for him. She got kind of bored with him, and the Crescent City government made an offer to her to purchase Hunt. And so he was sold off to Micah, which is where he is now. We don't know a lot about Micah yet, but at first glance, he seems at least a lot better than Sandriel, who was like literally cutting off body parts and torturing, putting people in torture chambers and like beating Hunt almost to death every day.
Oops.
So that's not happening.
I have to explain and show that I am strong somehow. You know, what am I just going to use my words? What am I going to write a memoir?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe start doing crossword puzzles. Find a hobby.
Oh my God, can you imagine how good, if we had forever, how good we would get at crossword puzzles? Or do you think that the crossword puzzles would just continue to get more and more difficult?
I think if a lot of people, like the collective, all started to become immortal, the crossword puzzles have just become really difficult.
Wow, something we could look forward to in immortality.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. And also, so we know at least from Micah that he has offered this vague path to freedom, which Sandriel was never going to offer. But Micah says, listen, I know you did wrong and you have to pay for your sins of trying to kill a bunch of archangels.
Mm-hmm.
But each kill from the rebellion, we're going to count as one kill for you. So that's to say, not just the people you've killed, Hunt, but all of the kills that happened in your rebellion. We're going to count each one of those kills, and then you're going to do one for me, Micah. And every time you do that, we check a body off the list, and then one day you will have fulfilled your debt.
And it's so bad because you think well, I mean, it's better than what Sandriel was giving him, which is true, but it's not like Hunt had much of a choice. You know, I feel like it's one of those, it's like, well, at least this is good, but it's like, I feel like if he had a choice, he'd be like, I don't know if I trust this. Why are you doing this? But he didn't have much of a choice.
You go like, okay, I guess. Like, what else am I going to do?
I'm just a slave, yeah.
A death for a death,
Micah had said.
When you've fulfilled the debt, Athalar, we'll discuss removing the tattoo on your brow. Unfortunately, that means he has to kill 2,217 people.
Yikes.
But it's the closest thing he has to hope. And hope, I wouldn't say hope, that's a strong word. His actions pull him apart inside, but there's at least something.
There is an end. I feel that, like, I was talking about this a lot when it came to the astronauts that are stuck up in space right now, and I was reading into about really, as long as there is an end date, your brain can understand and comprehend and deal with a lot when you know there is an end.
Totally.
When it is unending, when it is just the abyss.
Open-ended, yeah.
It really, I mean, I know that this is like a generic way of saying it, but it's like, it fucks with your brain, man. And like quickly, apparently. So, just having that, even though it's thousands of people, he's like, all right, but there's an end. Okay.
Yeah. And so he continues forth on this path, but he doesn't revel in killing. He despises it, but he also kind of despises himself, so it's fitting.
Oh.
He escapes the common room and finds himself contemplating life while he looks into the bathroom mirror.
In the harsh bathroom first lights, his light brown skin was pallid under the black band of thorns across his brow. The tattoo he'd learned to live with, but he shrank from the look in his dark eyes, glazed, empty, like staring into hell. Orion, his mother, had named him. Hunter. He doubted she would have done so, would have so lovingly called him Hunt instead if she'd known what he'd become.
Oh, Hunt, it's all your fault.
It's not your fault, babe. You were just trying to do what was good for you and the angels. You were trying to help everybody. It's not your fault.
But he does hate who he has become, and he drags himself into the shower, where he proceeds with what we will learn is a ritual of his after he makes his kills. He turns the water to near boiling, and then stands in it, in the pain of it, the scalding a sort of penance and offering. And that's where we're going to leave it today.
I wanna fix him. I wanna be there for him.
Sandrio? Oh, she's secretly in love with Hunt.
I'm sure. I'm alive. Hunt, come on, baby.
Whoa.
Baby, look, it's me. I'm not the bad twin. I'm the good
Cool.
twin, and you can kiss me. And don't scald yourself, baby. I love you. We're not in love with Hunt yet, Jackie, and you need to keep that on the back burner.
Yeah, don't. What if he's a badman? You don't know?
No, we do know.
We know.